I'm Gaz, and this is Let's Play Predynastic Egypt. This is sort of a board game video game. It vaguely reminds me of Seven Grand Steps, if you watch my Let's Play of that. And it's pretty difficult, actually. Made difficult by one mechanic in the game. So if you're one of those people that watches my series, likes what you see, and then you buy the game, you might want to hold off or wait for a steep discount for the game. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. New game, and we have the option, or many options, for customizing the difficulty of the game. I have played through the game once already on easy difficulty, and I lost pretty badly, actually, near the end, just because of how the game plays. So I'm going to stay on easy difficulty settings because they all give bonuses, and the top up there you see says recommended for beginners. The I guess normal mode is this historical choice, which doesn't give you any bonuses whatsoever. It just adds to your score. I don't really care about score, so we're just going to go with the easy stuff. Who were the ancestors? Our ancestors were the creators. They were famous builders of megaliths, and their knowledge was passed from generation to generation, giving me a plus 30% production growth. How did we get here? Resettlement. We are well prepared and settled in the land during an organized resettlement. Cost of workers and buildings, minus 10%. What is the environment? It is the land of the antelopes. The land is very rich. Herds of antelope are running around, and the trees give many fruits. There's a lot of resources on the map, which is not quite true. Maybe it means resource spots, because the actual resource amounts are pretty low, which makes me wonder what some of these harder difficulties are. Anyway, what spirits live here? The good spirits. Local spirits are kind to us. They help us in affairs and protect against evil. Good events happen more often than bad, and enemy armies are 20% weaker. Which is actually an interesting thing, because a lot of the times the tribes that we will be facing against will have larger armies than us, but we can still beat them pretty soundly. So I'll just go over what the other choices are. Neutral spirits, giving us points at the end. Elephant Trail, giving us points at the end. Wandering. The warrior choice adds to the growth of the army, which could also be helpful, but I think production is going to be more helpful. Sages, the strange historical choice that gives you less culture as you develop. Survival, making workers and buildings cost more. Poor ground, having very few resources. And evil spirits, bad things happen all the time. I cannot imagine why you'd want to do this, other than just to say you could do it. Anyway, start the game. And we'll play with the tutorial, because I think the tutorial gives us just a little bit of an advantage. At least it sets it up so that you can actually do stuff with it. Colonization. We came from a large tribe that suffered from overpopulation. We left our homes and are looking for happiness in the new lands. To gain a foothold in a new place, we need to increase the size of the tribe. So, in the game, there are these sort of, I would say, waypoint missions. They are sort of to guide you through what you should be doing next. There is actually a set of 7 overall game goals that you need to get to in order to win the game. And there is actually a turn limit, so it's a little aggravating, actually, because it kind of turns the game on rails, and I'm not a huge fan of that. But anyway, this particular goal, we simply have to increase our tribe to 3 workers during this time. Hunting resources will have +1 food production. This will actually be important to pay attention to, and I'll show you here in a minute, but there are different food production areas, and they are like hunting, gathering, fishing, farming. Anyway, when we complete this, we will get a bonus, one-time bonus of +5 food in our bank. Excuse me. So to go over the interface right now, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We have the hieroglyph for Hierakonpolis, which is our city, and I'm not really sure why this is here because we only get 1 city. We have workers, the current and maximum workers, and each one of these counts as 8 people. That's kind of an unnecessary statistic. It has no bearing on the game. this number is what counts. And you can go over this maximum, but if you do, there are penalties. And there are pretty steep penalties for even just having 2 people over, or two worker numbers over. I guess these count as worker groups rather than actual worker. And then the first resource that we have up here is food. Meat, fish, birds, vegetables, food. Everything needed for life and the development of the settlement. So we're at 1 consumption here because of our 1 person, and we have 1 in the bank. Your food is running out. Beware of hunger. That's our mission there. So we have 1 worker down here, and we can add more. We can also get rid of more if we have the overpopulation problem. And here is the first thing that we have to put our worker on. You can get food here. Move the worker here. And so now you can tell by the icon here that this is a hunting spot. And so we are going to get that +1 bonus that it talked about here. And this is the bonus, which means that when this mission is done, this will disappear and we will no longer have a food resource here, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, time to move to the next turn. And you'll see that we are now food neutral because of this production, but we're about to have to move our scout, or move our worker to scout a territory. This icon right here means that it will take 1 turn to do so, but when we do that it'll go back to -1 food consumption, and so what we've got in the bank right now will be 0. Scouting. We can scout the area now. Scouts gather important information about neighboring lands and sometimes even find valuable resources. So we'll move our worker over here, and next turn that will be scouted. Note the background of this picture because that indicates what kind of resource that will be. Tutorial notes, so it's just telling me there will be icons with information and flavor text and that sort of thing. Also, we are a primitive tribe. Our tribe is still at a primitive stage of development. It is nomadic and survives mostly by hunting and gathering. We live in temporary huts. There are no bonuses for doing so. And for further development, we need to discover Badari culture. That is in Discoveries, and we will have to unlock that. It's not available right now. So let's move on to the next turn and see what we can see. Map controls, pretty basic map controls. In fact, they're the kind of map controls that make this also a mobile game. I believe it is available for mobile. There's much more food here, so move a worker here. So now you can see, instead of hunting, this is actually a gathering spot. And so this actually does become important not only for things like this, but also certain things that we can do, certain rituals and whatnot are effective for very specific types of resource gathering. And if the noise, ambient noise, is a little too loud, this is at like 5%, it's a pretty loud game. I may have to turn it down even further. Anyway, next turn, because we have to start getting people to produce resources, seeing as how we have none. Create and dismiss workers. There is now enough food to feed everyone. To increase the tribe, we need to create a new work group. If there are too many workers in the tribe, it's possible to dismiss some of them. We've saved enough food. Create a new group of workers. Okay, so that one only cost me the 1 food. The next one will cost me 6, and this increases to a pretty hefty degree. So we're going to want to move this worker, instead of exploring, to more food resources, because now that we've got 2 people, it's consuming 2, we have to keep producing. This is a mechanic of the game that can get out of control very quickly, as you have to basically determine whether you want to keep stockpiling or start taking deficits and eat some of your stockpiles so that you can make more stockpiles of a different type of resource. So next turn, we're doing well. Our small tribe grows and we begin to create production and culture. With these resources, we will be able to construct buildings and learn the secrets of the gods, discovering new technologies. So now we have 2 new resources, production and culture. Production is everything people make and get besides food, tools, raw materials, household and luxury items. We are currently producing 1, which appeared here after we unlocked it. We also have culture. This is our cultural level, needed for technological breakthroughs. Each worker can create 1 culture per turn. So now we're getting 2 thanks to that. Also, there's an autosave. We can adjust how often that happens. Default is 5 turns. So I'm going to sit here for a bit and keep producing because this really is sort of a worker placement game. It's very much in line with those types of board games, and as such, having people as early as possible is very important. It really is an unfortunate aspect of the game. It does have a turn limit. There's 220 turns, and so what that does is it puts the game on rails. There's a build order. You have to be within certain limits or you're probably going to lose even on easy, as I discovered. So, next turn. Okay. The attack of jackals. This always happens. We have been approached by a pack of jackals. They're too cowardly to attack us at first, but they'll try to steal our food. One thing I kind of like, a nice little touch that's very subtle, is that it replaces the words with the icons. Very thematic for hieroglyphics. At first glance, they seem strong, but they're behaving hesitantly. What should we do about them? So this changes and is random. Because they're strong, I'm not so sure about attacking them. I think you probably have a 50-50 chance attacking strong jackals. But because they're behaving hesitantly, I feel like we could probably frighten them. There are times when this will be fearless, which was in my first playthrough of the game, and frightening probably wasn't going to work, so I just attacked them and it worked, even though they were strong and fearless. Fleeing, I feel like, is just giving up your food, and we can't really afford to do that, so we're going to try frightening and hope this works, making a lot of noise, shouting and banging on things, and hoping that they retreat. It worked. We made it. The ravenous jackals left with nothing. Let them look for food elsewhere. That's good, because if we'd lost that too, that would put my production of my next worker behind by a turn or possibly 2. Next turn. Alright, discoveries. We've saved up enough culture that the gods have helped us make a cultural breakthrough. In the discoveries menu, it's now possible to open various cultural achievements, technical innovations, religious concepts, or administrative reforms. Okay, new discoveries improve the quality of life and increase the culture of all civilization. So the discoveries is kind of like a tech tree. Some of these do have prerequisites, so like this requires cattle, which requires experimental breeding. Our ultimate goal with this is one of the actual 7 goals of the game in completing it, is single pantheon. And as you can see, that is going to cost me 45,000 culture points. This is going to take a while to get, and is actually where I failed in my first playthrough of the game. So hopefully I can keep on top of this, because this thing right here, if we fail any of the main mission points, it will basically lock us out of completing anything else. So we kind of need to keep up on it. So actually we do have to pick one. The choices I have right now are experimental breeding, which increases my food production, Cult of the Falcon increases my culture, and domestication of dogs, which reduces the time it takes to scout. All of these are pretty good. These first 2 obviously seem better. In order to get my workers, because I need 5 in order to get the first mission, you'd think that this would be a pretty good one to have, but actually the first one you want is this one, because right now we're producing 2 culture, and as you can see, all of these cost 4. So if I take this and add 2 more to my growth, that means I'm producing 4 a turn, which means that the next turn after I take this, I can take another one, and then another one. These next ones here cost 12, so it'll take 3 turns to get to the next one, so optimally, this is the first one you want to take. I will probably not be playing optimally for the full game, just because after a while it gets so complicated and complex that there's a lot of variables and decision making that I'm not really sure is the best decisions. So early on though, I'll try and do my best. Cult of the Falcon. Hunters noticed that the falcon is a very skilled predator, incredibly fast, precise, and strong. Respect for this bird eventually grew into veneration. People began to pray to the falcon for luck in the hunt. Alright, so we're now producing 4. That is pretty good. Next turn. And now we can unlock the next one. And I'm going to take experimental breeding. The first domesticated animals were goats. They gave people meat, skins, and milk. Sometimes hunters bring wild sheep and goats to the settlement. For years the animals remained half wild and did not breed in captivity. Feeding the lambs and kids from the first day solved the problem. So now, because of this, I have 2 food over that will be in production. And that's good because I've got 4, which makes 6, which means on the next turn I can make a worker. So, before I do so, I will make my final discovery here. The domestication of dogs. The dog was the first animal to become friends with man. Dogs were the first friends of man. The Egyptians were impressed by their ability to track and smell danger. Dogs were used for hunting, guarding homes, and they were very respected. The Egyptians believed that after death, dogs served people as guides in the realm of the dead. So now, these areas around my home are only going to take 1 turn to unlock. And let's go ahead and add another worker. And that completes the mission. Our tribe has successfully multiplied and securely populated the new land. We now have 3 members of the tribe and a 5 food bonus. Neolithic Revolution. Our gatherers have noticed that grains which accidentally fall on fertile soil sprout plentiful shoots. It will be interesting to see if we will be able to repeat this and get more food. So now we move on to the next mission, which is unlocking experimental farming and building 2 fields of grain. Doing so means that while we're doing this, all prices for buildings are 20% less, which is very helpful, and then once we've done it, we'll get a big bonus of 10 more food. We do not want to beeline for this, however, because we want to start maximizing the 5 people, because, as I said, being a worker placement game, having more workers means you can do more and get more done, and we're already almost on turn 10. So, with this 3rd worker now, I think it's time to begin exploring. We're now gaining 5 culture a turn, and because I've brought in another person, our food production is nothing. We're not growing, which means we'll never get another worker. So we do need to begin spreading out. And right now, the least important thing is production here. So I'm actually going to be using 2 workers to explore. Until we unlock experimental farming through technology, we can't even do any buildings, which is the only thing the production resource is good for. So, unnecessary. So this guy will stay here and make food, which means that we're not going to have enough food. We're going to actually start taking a deficit in our food. Oh, no, never mind, sorry, because this guy's not actually producing anymore. That turned off after we completed that, so never mind. But one of the benefits of exploring is that we can potentially find resources. So I'm going to take this guy and go across the river, rather than go here. You'd think I'd want to explore this area first, but I know from playing this before that right about here is a good production spot that will actually produce 3 hammers instead of the 1. So when we finally do unlock this, we'll have a very good spot to help. So I'm going to go do that, and then I'm going to take this guy and go down here. Next turn. Alright, and so immediately, we actually have a better spot than here, and we also found 7 culture. Scouts met travelers from other tribes and learned surprising things about their people. In gratitude, we told them about our achievements. It's always good to get new knowledge. So that actually is going to help. I've already unlocked another culture. And that was just a random find. So that's actually pretty darn good. And it's also, now that it's turn 10, unlocked the actual victory conditions of the game. The main game goal is to create the Egyptian state in 220 turns. Try to complete missions and trials as quickly as possible. In case of defeat, you'll be able to continue playing, but as I said, there's no real reason to do so, because if you fail one of these, it locks out the rest, and so you really can't do much. You can't actually fill in everything and complete the Egyptian state, at least I've found in my playthrough. So the first thing we need to do is create the Hierakonpolis chiefdom. I think that's a discovery thing that we'll find. We also have to conquer the Ombos, which is the city of the god Set. The cult of Set, or the tribe of Set, I should say, is the main antagonist of the game, and they will always have a stronger military, they will always be aggressive, they're a pain in the butt. So it's going to take a little doing to be able to conquer this. So really, this is not actually an order of goals you need to complete. You just need to complete them all. Along the way, we also need to unite 15 main river tribes of Egypt, and we have the option of conquering them or peacefully integrating them. We also have to discover the single pantheon, which is the thing that I showed there at the end of the discovery track, which will cost me 45,000 culture. We must also build a new capital, the city of Memphis, which will cost me 9,000 production points, and it is at the end of the production track. So basically, in order to get there, we are going to have to skip some things. We are going to have to skip over and decide what we actually want to build, because as I discovered, you can't just go down and build everything along the way. It doesn't work. Celebrate the Unification of Egypt. Did I say there were 7? There's actually 6. I thought there were 7. Cost of 5,000 food. Now this, I do not know what this entails. Unification of Egypt, I would assume, means we conquer everybody. But when this shows up, I don't know, because it's not in any of this. So it might just be a trial event that pops up about the tribes. You need to unite or conquer the tribes living along the Nile shores. To start unification or conquest, you need to create the Hierakonpolis chiefdom. So it does kind of guide you in the direction that you need to be going, and that's helpful. So we will we'll just keep exploring, because I know that there is a tribe right here, and if we find them, we will have the ability to trade with them, which can also help some of this early on. We can also raid them if they're hostile, which gives you a pretty sizable lump of whatever it is they produce. It's random, I believe, whether they're food producing or hammer producing, culture producing, so hopefully we'll get something good there. We also have this discovery thanks to our discovery of culture, and we're actually going to go to cattle before I go to experimental farming. Even though this is the next thing, it doesn't actually do anything for me, because it only unlocks production for building the field of grain, and right now I'm not making any production, and I don't have enough people to produce, because you have to utilize one of your workers to make the production. So really, I think we'll just be doing this, because right now we're at 0 food, and we need at least something growing, otherwise we'll never make the other 2 workers. So we'll do cattle. Cattle eat a lot more than small goats, but they're more beneficial. Of all the animals the Egyptians tried to domesticate, the cow became the most valuable acquisition and gave people lots of meat, milk, and hides. Cows in Egypt have enjoyed a well-deserved respect and love. So that's good. That's actually pretty helpful right there. I guess we'll just keep going on. The Merimde culture. In 4800 BC, to the north of us, in the delta of the Nile, light-skinned people have appeared. They have made great strides in agriculture, breeding cattle, and they are able to mold pots and build houses. They are ahead of us in development. It's not really something we can do much about right now. So, what did I... Okay, that's just growth. Okay. Well, we'll just keep going there, and it is tempting to just start knocking this out as soon as possible, but I really want to get to this hill, because as I said, we're about to get to this to unlock building, and we're going to need someone to be building. So it's going to take a while to get this, but I think it'll be worth it. Next turn. Okay, so another production spot. Now take 2 turns to unlock this. Good. The greening of the Sahara. Abundant rains watered the savanna, and it has blossomed. The rejuvenated Sahara shines green and is full of living creatures. Hunting, gathering, farming, and cattle breeding are all +1 food for the next 4 turns. It is also very loud. Can I zoom to a level where it's not so loud? Maybe not. Okay, I guess not. Anyway, now we're getting an extra one out of here, which is pretty good, because we need 16, so we're halfway there. Living on a prayer. Let's go. Oh, we can actually unlock the next one of these, which will be... actually be weaving, because now this is going to give me a production growth. As I said, this isn't useful to me right now, so I need to be making resources. So weaving. Reed mats made houses cozy, and baskets were useful for household storage. The technology of weaving from a variety of natural materials made life easier for the Egyptians. Mats of reeds covered the walls and floors of their homes, and these mats were also used in funeral rites. Baskets and chests were woven from the branches of vines. You may wonder about the vines. Bear in mind that we are in Predynastic Egypt, and the game tries to be historically accurate. It does take some interpretations to try and explain a few things, which I actually like, but not all of them are accurate. But this is presupposing that this was before the desertification of the Sahara. So, next turn we should have a few things unlocked and ready to go. Thankfully that only lasts for an immediate turn. Okay. Scouts from a hostile tribe were spotted near our settlement. They have not decided what to do with us yet, but nothing good will come from such neighbors. A new threat is available, and a probability of attack. Okay. So I feel like their hostility level must also be random, because I seem to recall they were actually friendly towards me in my last playthrough. My first playthrough, I should say. My only other playthrough of the game. Production found. We found 3. Scouts came across a small settlement. It seems to be abandoned, but in taking a closer look at the house, they found something useful. So we at least got that, which is nice. Culture was also found, which is more useful to me. Scouts met travelers from another tribe and learned surprising things about their people. In gratitude, we told them about our achievements. It's always good to get new knowledge. So now, that immediately has bumped me to another discovery, which is fantastic. We have found the Cow Nut Tribe. Our scouts came to the lands of the Cow Nut Tribe. We need to send our envoys to their settlement to interact with them. Do that in a minute. We have a new thing now. Tutorial, probability of attack. Neighboring tribes and nations often consider you easy prey and an opportunity for safe profit. Pursue a wise policy with neighbors or keep an army to prevent raids and worship the goddess Nekbet. We will not be able to unlock Nekbet for quite some time, but she is a very useful goddess. But we'll also come under the decision-making thing where we're going to have to basically decide, do we want to worship this god or this god, because if we fall behind on some of the benefits that one god can give, then we're not going to be able to catch up otherwise, and yeah, it's kind of a bad deal. So, you see now, we actually have a 50% chance of being attacked, and is that... Oh. Let me look for this real quick. No? Okay. Well, there is a way to make that go away. I guess we're not committing to anything by taking a worker to another tribe. We're just taking a peek. So our scouts returned from the Cow Nut Tribe. These advanced people are engaged in cattle breeding. They're neutral and they're weak. They have valuable goods for exchange, like meat, so we could trade them for pretty good meat, or pretty good food, I should say, but it'll cost me 1 production. That's actually pretty cheap. If we gift them, which will cost us 5 turns, it will improve our relations, so they'll go from neutral to friendly, I think. But it's going to cost 3 resources every turn for those 5 turns, so it's kind of pricey to do. In some situations it might be useful, but honestly I don't think... I mean, if we can trade with them when they're neutral, it's not really necessary, because in order to subdue them, this will cost 5 turns with a 100% chance, so we can immediately take them over. But by improving relations in order to complete that unification goal, we'll also have to basically spend time, same amount of time, or actually no, I think in some cases it's like 8 turns. It might be 5 just because this is sort of the first tribes, but later it does cost 8 turns. So, I mean, tit for tat, you know, what do you really want to gain from that? Because all you gain from either subduing or assimilating them is the removal of this tribe, and it becomes a resource node. So in some situations, like raiding, we can actually gain more by basically picking on them. Raiding helps to weaken tribes so that you can subdue them more easily, but we already have a 100% chance. I mean, they are weak. But as you see here, if I succeed, it'll take me 2 food for every turn, and it'll take 5 turns to prepare an attack. So at the cost of 10 food, I will gain 24. And there's a 90%, that's really weird, there's a 90% chance I'll successfully raid them, and a 100% chance to take them over. Subduing the tribe also means I will lose one of my people, which is weird. Failing means we'll lose 2. Failing means we'll lose 2 here as well. So, I don't know. I mean, we would gain a lot more out of this, I feel. Well, so after 5 turns, we gain a net of 14 food. Okay, at the cost of making them now hate us, which does nothing to help the chance of attack. Trading, however, in 5 turns will make 15 food, but at the cost of basically -5 production. And right now we're not producing. We would have 0 production if I chose this. So I'm gonna hold off on that and make a different make a decision. So it is still raining on the Sahara, so we can actually probably utilize some workers here to gain some resources so that we can start making more workers. If I put down 2 more here, in fact, it might behoove me just to spend a turn with them on these resources so that we could then gain a 4th one, because it's going to take 4 turns. This right here is the hill with the more production resources. And I feel like we're probably ahead of the game right now, just because of the discoveries that I found with the culture. That really helped out. So we're definitely ahead in Discovery Zone. And speaking of discoveries, we can now unlock this. You know what, though? I think this video's gone on long enough, so I'm going to end this one here, and we'll start making some decisions that will actually affect the future of the game next time.